Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earle Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earle Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earle Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and by Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm Insurance.
Plus, Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. Also by Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Karras Chevrolet with George Gully. Napa Cafe Memphis and Glenda Hastings. Phoenix Unequalled Home Entertainment. For Memphis Magazine. The Live at the Garden Concert Series. And the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis. And by Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, family owned and operated for more than 40 years. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earle Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome into Lansky's inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel. And we've got a big show for you lined up today. We've got our Elvis guest, who is the daughter of Elvis's first girlfriend. And so that's coming up after our first interview, which is with Jake Hill, who's with Phoenix Home Entertainment. Good afternoon, and welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on board.
Well, we love having Phoenix Home Entertainment on board, but you guys do so much more than the home entertainment thing. But you're actually a sales engineer, which I've never seen that, sales/engineering.
Yes.
But it makes sense because it's such a technical business you're in.
It is.
You got to be able to explain to the average person what it is they're buying.
Definitely. My biggest thing with my role is I can quote the stuff, but I could also give you the technical details behind everything that we sell. And like you said, we're not just your average home theater installer. We do a lot with security, home systems, home automation, everything.
And you do it all over the country.
Yes.
Not just here in Memphis.
Correct.
In fact, I know Scott just got back from Colorado where you've been out there doing, but I know you've done a bunch of homes, people that have homes in Florida.
Yep.
Goes down and takes care of those. How did you get into the business? I mean, have you always been a techno?
Actually, music is kind of the starting point with it. You know, I went to school, grade school, always sang in choir, ended up going to high school and college singing, and my music director in Michigan, actually, he was very strict on us, saying, hey, you got to put together and take down everything that you use, your microphones, your boards, everything. So I think that's what really got me started of, you know, the tech background, all that stuff. So. Well,
he was right in one respect, because if especially when you're starting out, you don't have roadies, and
right.
Nobody else to do the stuff.
Sure.
Which is the way it started when I first started in television.
Yes.
I was working on the floor, and I learned how to run everything, how to direct. I learned how to, cameras, process film back in those days.
Definitely.
And because if anything goes wrong, you have to step in and make it work. And
yes.
So or you're held hostage by somebody else.
That's right. Yep.
Now you're the hostage taker.
Yep, that's true.
How did you come to Phoenix?
So I'm from Michigan originally. My wife and I actually met working at Walt Disney World
for
our college program, and she is from Mississippi, and now I'm living in Mississippi.
So do you eat grits now?
I do. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't think I would like, but man, some of the food down here is great.
The food in the South is the best in the world. In fact, those people from France that were just here, they're going to find out that too. Everybody thinks French food's the best in the world. Nah. Wait till you get a chicken fried steak or
that's right.
creamed potatoes with brown gravy. I want to talk a little bit about home entertainment systems, because you do everything from you'll put in a 50-inch flat screen with a couple of speakers and a bass, or all the way up to entire rooms or additions to homes.
Correct. So we do everything. We focus on the larger things, obviously, but when it comes down to whether it be just regular media rooms with TVs, subwoofer speakers, 2-channel setup, stuff like that, all the way up to full surround sound, 9-point channel, everything. And as far as the home theater aspect, we use everything from Meridian Audio to Stewart screens. We really dwell on the high-end stuff.
I think that's what a lot of people want, especially if they want to do something. At least I've found it to be true. The people I know that have money,
yes,
they don't want anything that's just average.
Correct.
They want absolutely the best there is, because you're only going to do this once.
Right.
You may upgrade, but if it's a good base and everything, this rack systems, everything that you're putting in there is state of the art and the best there is, you can upgrade. But putting the whole system together again, you're not having to repeat the whole thing.
That's right. That's right. And that's one thing we really focus on at Phoenix is future-proofing people.
Yeah.
Just because people, they may start right now, and then 20 years down the line, they want to add another wing to their house, and then we have the capability to extend and do whatever we need to do to that system to accommodate for that space.
For their relatives.
Right.
So when they come visit, they have their own TV room.
That's right.
And you still have yours.
That's right. Yes.
The technology is changing so fast.
Yes.
I mean, you'll go to the electronic show in Vegas, which is where they show everything. Do you guys go to that?
Yes, we're going to CEDIA this year. I think it's in Denver, Colorado this year. But me and our senior designer will be flying out there in September.
And so when you go there, you're looking at stuff, because some of it is there. It's available now, but it really hasn't been tested yet.
That's right.
And do you wait until you see some people that have bought it and installed it and get a track record of it before you do it yourself?
Sometimes we will. Sometimes we'll spearhead that. We're very straight up with vendors. We'll tell them, hey, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. I wish we had this. And a lot of the vendors are really accommodating. Whether they'll either come out with something else that'll accommodate us, or they'll give us a workaround that will make it work.
The other thing I think is very important that you do is you're able to integrate all the components.
Yes.
So many people that do it themselves can't understand why their amp is not working with their speakers, or the flat screen they bought, or the projection system they bought.
Yes.
And it's because you guys have done it all. You know what works, you know what doesn't work, and why.
Yes. So that's one thing we're really big with Phoenix is our control system. We have our system designers that spent hours and hours and hours working on programming that system so that we're fitting it to your lifestyle. We don't want anything that's going to be, oh, I wish it did this. No, we're going to make it so it does that, so that you like your system. It's your house, it's your daily lives. We're just here to enhance it.
Speaking of the house and the daily lives, it doesn't end with entertainment centers.
No.
I mean, you guys literally can make a home a smart home.
Correct.
That you can be controlling it from wherever you are in the world.
Yes.
Turn things on, turn things off. It notifies you if there's a leak in the house.
Yes.
Which I wish we had that in ours when we had a leak.
Sure.
But everything to smoke detectors and security systems, which I'm going to show a video here. This is a system you have actually on your building here.
Yes.
And this is me actually driving into the parking lot. What you just saw, this is a completely automated camera. It zoomed into me in my car because there's motion. So it's following the motion now. And it pans, it tilts, it zooms. And unlike a key or the doorbell ringing, that tracks things. It's motion activated. But this actually stays with the car until a human gets out. Then watch what happens is, and Rob, my engineer, goes, you want me to cut that down a little bit? Cut that, you sitting in the car by yourself out? And I said, no. This is where Grandpa finally gets out of the car. Come on, I can do it. And but watch, then it zooms into me.
Yep.
And it's going to follow me right up to the front door.
Yes.
In fact, Scott was watching me. You may have been too.
Yes.
As I was coming in. You don't even need a doorbell because you know who's there.
Exactly.
And there's a speaker, an outdoor speaker. They could say, don't even think about coming in.
Right, right. And the nice thing with that, you get all your smart notifications. So when motion is detected, it'll obviously say, hey, motion is detected at the front door. Or when you get closer, it'll go into, hey, a vehicle is detected, or hey, a person's detected. So it's really cool, the smart features that come with those cameras. One thing about us, we're a fully licensed security dealer. And really the object analytics of access cameras that we use sends notifications straight to your smartphone, and it makes it super easy if, God forbid, something happens, that you're able to share that with law enforcement, stuff like that, if, God forbid, something happens.
That's the first thing they ask for.
That's right.
Anymore is, does anybody have any video that was taken of the street? The great thing about this system is, we live in a cove, and if we had that on the front of our house, anybody that enters that cove, it's going to track.
That's right.
And it will track them throughout their motion until they leave the cove. Does it also read plates?
So it depends on how far away it is. We actually have the Access website that we could plug in where cameras would be on a schematic of a house, and it'll show you the clarity that you'll be able to see if you'll be able to see someone's face or license plate or numbers on a license plate, stuff like that.
Well, I know there's a camera called Flock, F-L-O-C-K, and I'm sure you're familiar, and we have them all over the Memphis,
Sure.
several hundred, but they're all over the nation now.
Yes.
That is how they're catching a lot of criminals, is these not only take a picture of the license plate, it picks out peculiarities of the vehicle.
Exactly.
A cracked window, a bumper sticker, a dented fender, and all those things factor in if it says track this car wherever it is, and it does.
That's right.
And then they see a pattern where they go on a regular basis. They just go wait for them.
That's right.
And they show up. Security is probably the biggest thing in the country. You look at it on the news. You look at it in the government. That's the situation in New York with the guy that went in and killed the people.
I know.
And you look at that situation, and that was one of the most elite addresses on Park Avenue in New York City, most elite city in the world. And the guy walks up, shoots out the front door, and walks right in.
That's right.
And so I think people are sitting there saying, we thought we had a good security system, but I don't think we really do.
That's right. And our security systems, they tie hand in hand with our surveillance systems, obviously. But all of our systems generally are hardwired when it comes to door sensors, glass breaks, stuff like that. But our systems go even deeper than that, as far as, like you were talking about, water detection. Our fully autonomous systems will basically say, hey, if there's a leak, it will have a shutoff valve on the main of the house.
Wow.
And it'll shut off the water so that if you guys are on vacation or anything like that, you don't have to worry about anything.
Well, and that's where the real damage comes in, because once it's detected, then it's just sitting on hardwood floors.
That's right.
But you're notified. You're able to notify somebody, get over there quick and dry the floors out.
Yep.
And then let's get a plumber in there to find out where the leak is.
That's right.
Because time is critical when it comes to something like that.
100%.
And then with fire detection, smoke detection, any of the things that can go wrong in a home, it's completely wired to address every situation.
Correct. So the cool thing about like our thermostats and stuff and our smoke detectors, they all kind of work together. So God forbid you guys have a fire or something like that, it'll actually send a notification to the homeowner saying, hey, something's going on, but then it'll trigger that thermostat to shut off so that your HVAC isn't running, so it doesn't spread the fire even more.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's getting to be a fully autonomous system that you don't have to think about what's next. You know, we want our Phoenix systems to work for you. You shouldn't have to work for the system.
I've told Scott this story before when I got one of the early plasma 50-inch televisions.
Sure.
Because I was talking to my parents and my sister and her husband there in Texas.
Yeah.
And they were watching the Rose Bowl, and I thought, isn't this video just incredible? I'm like, it's like it is every year. I said, oh, that's right. You don't have HD. And I went, no, I don't have HD.
Yeah.
But I got it. And I was just completely blown away. But before they installed it, I hired just some guys. And it was a little video, install speakers. It may have been even a speaker store that just started selling plasma TVs. Sure. And so they come out, and the very first thing they did is said, what do you want? I said, on this wall right here. They drilled a hole in the wall and hit a water pipe.
Yep.
And this water jet went completely across the room to the wall and hit this. Fortunately, it was an oil painting, and so the water didn't stay on it.
Sure.
But it went to the couch below it. And he says, do you have a shutoff valve? I said, I don't know. Those are kind of things you expect the people that are installing something to address beforehand.
You would think. And I've worked with places that has happened before, but you know, with us, we take every precaution. We know what stud, where everything's at, what's in what stud bay, and we figure all that stuff out.
Well, and the thing about it is, you know what can happen.
Yes.
And so what you do is you circle around anything that can happen and make sure it can't happen.
That's right.
But that only comes from experience, and it's not like the transmission disc. I always wanted to work on a transmission. That's not who you want to hire for your plasma.
Yeah, no.
And I think a lot of people are intimidated, thinking, well, I've got to spend $100,000 for a room. That's not the case at all. I mean, do you have them, would you prefer that you come out and do an audit of what they want to do, interview them?
Yeah, usually. So, like, we'll do, like, an in-home consultation. We'll look around. We'll see what experience they're looking for. just because everyone has their own specific needs, everyone has their own thing that they want. So as long as we can align expectations, we're always going to take care of the client.
Do you also soundproof the rooms if it's like still in construction?
Yeah. So if we're doing a start to finish theater in someone's house and we have a plot of land that we're building, we go as crazy as to putting it's a spacer basically in between the joists of the house where that theater is going to be, so that it won't leak out any sound.
Not even vibration.
Nope. Because it's a fully suspended room at that point.
Wow.
So it's a huge deal, but it makes an entire difference of your experience there.
We've been in our house now 22 years and have like clip speakers and surround the sound.
Sure.
I've never turned it up a quarter of what it'll do.
Yes.
Is that the case for most? With the sound system, if it's really good, you hear all the low-end things. You don't have to crank it up until it blows the roof off.
That's right. So, especially when you're looking into your 7-9 channel systems, each speaker has its own job, and at that point, you don't have to crank it up to get the experience that you want. So you could keep it at 40, where if you just have a sound bar or something, you're cranking that thing up to 60 or 80, to try and hear the football game or whatever. But true surround sound, if you do it right, it makes a world difference.
And I guess the whole thing about it is you guys' job is to find out what people want, and then you give them the options that are out there.
That's right.
And let them choose from there and then go to work. I know that when Scott was out in Colorado, I think you were building an entire room or it was part of a new house.
Yes.
And so you're actually in on it from the beginning because of the architecture.
Yes, we have to be. When it comes to pre-wiring, when it comes to anything that client wants, it's always easiest to just pre-wire for it. And if he wants it, great. If he doesn't, then that wire's just going to stay in the wall.
Well, from my own experience, it's easier to hire somebody to figure out how to get the wire from there to there through the attic, and it's not me.
That's right. That's right.
But I know you'll build racks and do stuff and have an entire room or closet that is dedicated to all your...
Definitely, and that's where we'll store all of our security hubs, all the keypads. Obviously, we'll have keypads throughout the house, but we'll store all of the brains in that room.
Do you also do, like, secret rooms? Is that part of what you do, or do you just equip the secret rooms?
We could equip the secret rooms. I'm not saying we couldn't partner with someone to get that going. I've seen that in a lot of high-end places where they have a bookshelf and you move a bust and it opens an entire room and people have their server in there and everything.
Yeah, so which is anti-burglary too, but
right.
You've got everything else because they do steal things like high system gear.
That's right.
Which is another reason you don't want to show people everything you have.
Sure.
Jake, tell them how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, so you can call us directly. It's 901-624-0940. Or just, we have Facebook. If you guys want to reach us, anything like that, just give us a call and, we'll take care of you.
In fact, on your Facebook page, you can see a lot of the rooms they've already done.
Yes.
From big to medium to small.
Yes.
And if you want it to look like a Malco Theater, they can do it.
That's right. We also did just upgrade our website. It's pccmem.com. That's our Phoenix website. It has just gotten refreshed, and it's going to be updated monthly. We're going to take care of it. And if you guys ever have questions, you can reach us out on that.
And what's the usual wait time if they called you today before you could get out there and at least meet with them?
I make it a priority. If I can't get out there that day, I'm coming out the next day.
Wow.
I'll
respond.
Yes, 100%. Especially if we're looking at a serious project and you're ready to, get feet on the ground and everything, I'm there.
Well, I also know people that have a lot of money are very impatient people.
Always. And that's okay.
They never say, whenever you get to it.
No, unfortunately not.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and joining us today. We look forward to the next visit and some more of the stuff you do, because I think once people find out what Phoenix Home Entertainment does, they know it's a lot more than home entertainment.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Earle. It's really been a pleasure.
Well, you're great.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then you're going to meet the daughter of the woman who first dated Elvis. So stay with us. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Dawn Grader, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. We're the proud title sponsor of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show, coming to you live from Lansky's in the world-famous Peabody Hotel and celebrating all of the great things about our great city, Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm so proud to be part of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show, streaming live from Lansky's from the Peabody. We will be showcasing not only Napa Cafe, but some great restaurants around town. We look forward to seeing you.
Hi everyone, it's Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. And I'm here to tell you about the new podcast that Earle Farrell from Memphis is doing. And we're doing it downtown live from the Peabody, which is behind me and next to the Rendezvous. And we're going to be talking all things Memphis, but we're also going to be talking about health insurance because that applies to everyone. And I can help you in every area. So I look forward for you listening to us and learning more about what we can do for you in Memphis and how I can help you with your health.
Hello, Memphis Mid-South. And first, I'd like to thank you for visiting with Earle Farrell Memphis today, and we want to support him just like you do. I'm George Gully, one of the sales managers at Jim Carrey Chevrolet. We've been in business here in Memphis for over 75 years. I've been associated with the company for almost 25, and I'll help you find the right car, truck, or SUV here at not only our Chevy store, but also Buick, GMC, Nissan, Subaru. We can help you find that right car. Keep watching Earle and come see me. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm, and I'm so excited to be one of the sponsors for the Earle Farrell from Memphis show, broadcasting live from Lansky's at the Peabody. And I'll tell you all about what we've got going on at our office. Gift cards for quotes. No purchase necessary. I'm better looking than a lizard.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis, or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earle Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
Hi, my name is Jameson Todd, and I'm the director of Live at the Garden and the Radiance Amphitheater. And we're so excited for our 25th year of Live at the Garden here at the Memphis Botanic Garden. We've got a great lineup for you this season, so come on out.
Hi, I'm Olivia Wald, Director of Marketing and Communications for Memphis Botanic Garden and Live at the Garden. We've had Earle Farrell right along the way for the past 25 years, and we can't wait to talk more about the season this summer on the Earle Farrell for Memphis show.
So come out to Live at the Garden. Our first show is on June 21st.
Hi, I'm Mitch Wright. And I'm his son, Mickey. And we're the owners of Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
And proud sponsors of the Earle Farrell from Memphis show.
We're thankful to be part of the Memphis community. We've been in business for 42 years, taking care of people and loving the people of the Mid-South.
Hey, my name is Jake. I'm with Phoenix Unequalled Home Entertainment. I just wanted to introduce myself and kind of what I do here at Phoenix. I'm a sales engineer. A lot of the times we talk about home theaters, but there's so much more that we offer. We offer a lot of home security solutions, as well as water detection and everything. So if you guys ever need anything, give us a call. We'll get you guys fixed up.
And welcome back to Lansky's at the world famous Peabody Hotel. And joining me now is a very special guest. She is the daughter of the woman that Elvis first dated when they were just kids at Humes High School. Kristi Emmons, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Earle. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Well, it's great having you here. We're having a lot of guests on this because Elvis Week is coming up, and it's a time to remember and to tell stories because the number of people left that can tell the stories are becoming fewer and fewer, sadly. But you're still here, and your big sis is right over here with you, and you've been telling stories ever since this all first unfolded. When was the first time your mother told you? I mean, obviously you were born, and she's saying, I used to date Elvis. How did that even come up?
Gosh, Earle, you know what? My mother was not one that just openly talked about her relationship with Elvis, to be honest. So I sort of learned about it secondhand when other people would come up to her when they knew who she was, and just sort of secondhand learned about her relationship with Elvis. And of course, the most prominent thing people talked about was the fact that she and Elvis went to prom together.
Yeah, which I have a picture right here of that.
Yeah, I love that photo of them, by the way. They look just like typical happy teenagers. Young love.
Yeah, which I think is, and we talked about when you first got here this afternoon, was the thing I think it's so great about the story about Elvis and your mom, Dixie, is they were just high school kids, and we can all relate to that because at one time we all had our first love, and no matter what happens to you the rest of your life, you only have one first love.
That's right.
And this was the two they shared together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And no matter what happened to the rest of their life, they were tied together because of that experience.
Well said. That's so true. A lot of people, often ask how Elvis and my mother met, and some people assume that it was through school, but they actually met at church. And
which doesn't surprise me.
Yep. So my mom was a member at First Assembly of God here in Memphis, which is where the Blackwood Brothers Southern Gospel Quartet was headquartered. And so, as most of us know, Elvis's first love of music was Southern Gospel.
Yep.
And so that was one of the very reasons why he came to this church, was to hear the Blackwood Brothers. But he and my mom immediately made eyes with each other across the lobby of the church. And that's how they met. My mother said he was painfully shy.
Yeah.
And she said, you know what? I quickly realized that he was never, ever going to have the nerve to approach me. And so my mom started talking with her girlfriends about going roller skating the next weekend, hoping that Elvis was in earshot of what she was saying.
They could hear it.
And evidently he was, because when they got to the roller skating rink the next weekend, Elvis was there.
Men are such idiots. Yeah.
Hey, you said it. I didn't.
I know, because he said, I wonder if she knew I could hear her. Women know everything. Nothing happens without their attention.
Yeah.
And so he shows up there, and then so how did her plan continue? Did she work her way over to him or stumble and he picks her up, or how did that work?
Well, a little bit of the opposite, because Mom said that it became clear that Elvis was not a very good roller skater, and she said he was sort of like hanging on to the side rails for
Probably
dear
the
life.
first time he'd ever been.
It may have been. And so she said she skated up to him and she said, "Hey, Elvis, I'm Dixie." And he said, "I know who you are." And she said, "Well, listen, you want to just kick our skates off and let's just go sit and talk for a while?" And he gladly took her up on that offer. So they took their skates off, sat over on the side of the skating rink, and talked the rest of the skating session.
Wow. Did she, because he looked different from anybody else forever. I mean, when he was a little kid, he looked different from anybody else.
Yeah.
There's a great photo book that was done by RCA when Elvis went to New York for the first time to be in the Ed Sullivan Show, which, by the way, this is his jacket that Lansky's had reproduced.
You wear it well.
Yeah. Don't look like Elvis, though. And there are pictures of him on the train going to New York, stopping along the way at these little stations, and they'd get off with the other passengers and buy fruit and sandwiches and things. And Elvis just didn't look like, I mean, he had straight teeth. His hair was perfect. He was dressed from Lansky's, had a great-looking jacket and slacks, two-tone shoes. And they were in the most telling photograph was they were at not Times Square, Grand Central Station.
Yes.
And he's walking across this huge lobby, and he's dressed immaculately. These two young girls in their big pleated dresses with, I guess, a French poodle on the front. And they're walking past him, and as they walk past him, both turn to look at Elvis as he's walking away. That's New York City, and they had never seen anybody like that before.
Right.
Did she notice? Was that one thing she talked about, that he just didn't look like anybody else?
Absolutely. And, she talks about, so to revert back a little bit about the night that they were at the skating rink, when they got ready to leave the skating rink that night, Elvis asked if he could take my mother home. And she said, "Well, I'll have to call my mother." So she skirted off over to a payphone. Earle, my grandparents didn't have a phone. My mother was pretending to call my grandparents to
because they
ask.
didn't have a phone.
They had no phone. I mean, you thought Elvis was poor. My mother's family was very poor as well.
Yeah.
So
Most people were back then.
Yes, yeah.
It was after the Depression.
Exactly. So she pretended to call to get permission. She goes back and tells Elvis, "Yes, my mother said you can take me home." And so I'm like, "Oh, now I'm seeing, how I can be sneaky like my mom as a teenager." But
she knows all the tricks.
She knew all the tricks. Yeah, I didn't get away with much with her because of that. But she did have Elvis take her home that night. So when Elvis came over a few days later for a official first date, because when Elvis came in, he did look different. He was dressed differently. His hair was different. My grandmother told them, she said, "You know what? Instead of you kids going out tonight," she said, "I think y'all just better stay in." And, my mom said Elvis was so fine with that. He's like, "Sure, we can stay in." And they played card games and board games with my mom and my sister. And my mother said by the end of the night, everybody in the family was in love with him because he was just so loving, so kind, so respectful, mannerly, gentlemanly, that even though he did look and dress different, there was just something so lovable about him.
Being painfully shy, did she know that he sang and played the guitar at that point?
She, yes, and she said that he loved to just sit around with a guitar, and he would take a song that everyone knew, and he would start out singing it, and then he would twist the lyrics. Like, he loved to just be very impromptu.
Which he did the rest of his life.
He did the rest of his life.
Because if you look at any of the shows in Vegas or anything else, he'd start off with it and play it straight, but then he loved to have fun with it.
He did.
And make up other verses and laugh and have a good time. Because he wanted the audience, and I think this is what he really wanted to do, to have as much fun as he was having on stage. And if he was having fun, they were having fun.
Truth, yes.
Did he ever talk about what he wanted to do? I mean, because he was, at that point, I'm sure he had a job, because everybody had to have a job.
Right.
And what kind of a car was he driving then? Do you recall?
Oh, my goodness. Well, listen, when they first started dating, Elvis was just out of high school.
Okay.
But my mother was still in high school. And so, she would get out of school at the end of the day, and Elvis would be there to pick her up, oftentimes in the electrician truck when he was still working as, an apprentice for them. And so their relationship was that early into Elvis's span of career.
What was the name of the electric country? I've heard it over the years.
Crown Electric.
Crown Electric. Did he have a shirt that said Crown Electric with Elvis on the...
Now that I can't recall, but I know it did have the Crown logo on it. Whether he got a personalized shirt at that point, I don't know.
He had such a great sense of humor. The guys that used to own Super Cycle over on Bellevue, Ron and Lou, they sold him a number of motorcycles, including the trike bike that they made for him, so he drove for many years.
Yeah.
But they said he came in one day and was there, and the guy that delivered the Pepsi had just delivered it, and some girls that were at a beauty school across the street came over to get a Pepsi because they knew that Ron and Lou had a Pepsi machine. And they said, she said, "Did y'all get a shipment of Pepsi?" She said, "I don't know, ask the Pepsi guy here." And it was Elvis. This girl goes, "Do we have any Pepsis?" He goes, "Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I'll buy you one." And so he bought her a Pepsi. The girl still didn't recognize him. But as soon as she was walking out, he said, "Thank you very much." And she said, "You're..." He said, "That's right." She goes and tells all her friends. A minute later, the place was packed with 1,500 screaming girls.
Of course.
But so apparently he got over the shyness at some point. Did it happen during the 2 years your mom and Elvis were dating? Did she see him start to evolve?
She did. She saw an amazing transformation, and she talked about the fact that, when he would get on stage, that his confidence and his natural charisma was just overwhelming. And that was really where he was made to shine. And she commented on the fact that my grandmother observed that anytime he was in a casual setting, and I've heard other people talk about this too, that Elvis was always tapping his leg,
shaking his head, going up and down.
There was, like this nervousness, this level of anxiousness. But when he went on stage, it all just transformed into this larger than life person.
Johnny Cash, and I've seen this interview just recently, said that there was just something about Elvis that was totally different. There was a magnetism, a personal, almost aura, that when he walked in a room, everybody turned and looked at him, and nobody took their eyes off of him the entire time he was there. And that was true for the rest of his life.
Yes, it was, for sure.
And did she talk about that she noticed that there was something? I mean, when you're attracted to somebody, we all feel that way, that this is different than anybody I've ever met. Mm-hmm. But obviously there was something more to Elvis, and it was probably there even when he didn't realize it.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. And, she, during their courtship, which was almost 3 years, Elvis and my mother not only were first loves between each other, but their families became extremely close, the Lockes and the Presleys. And I think that, Mr. and Miss Presley saw this transformation happening as well. And it was, yes, they knew that Elvis had a gift, but I don't think anyone quite was prepared for how quickly this happened and how large it was.
Because it had never happened like that before. I mean, the closest thing was Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And he was still very popular. But when they put that sign up in New York City that Elvis was coming, it wasn't anything like Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And the reaction to it, of course, the media had grown so much in those years. And this was the hottest thing going around the world. That's
yes.
So they're dating, and when was his first? Did he do his first record while he was dating your mom?
He did. My mother has a really sweet story. So my grandparents were from Georgia. And so one summer, they had gone back to Georgia to visit some relatives. And my mom said that while they were in Georgia, that my mother got a telegram. Okay, think about this. This is in the 1950s. There's no social media. There's no cell phones. You either have, the U.S. snail mail, or you could send a telegram. So my mother got a telegram from Elvis, and it said, "They're playing my song on the radio."
Wow.
And so my mom said that when they were traveling back from Georgia as a family, that she's like, every time they would turn the radio station from one station to another, it was Elvis.
Wow.
They were hearing "That's All Right, Mama." And they would change it to another station, "That's All Right, Mama." And she said it was so exciting because they were hearing it for the first time themselves.
Now, had Elvis moved from, obviously, Lauderdale Court, but then they had a house over off Lamar someplace.
Yes.
And then they bought the house on, was it Audubon?
Yes, Audubon.
Audubon, which was the last house he had before they moved to Graceland.
Right.
So was she with him through a couple of those houses?
So, no, by the time Elvis bought the Audubon house, they had pretty much gone their separate ways. But I will tell you that when Gladys passed away, which was in 1958, Elvis had purchased Graceland by that time. Elvis reached out to my mom when Gladys passed, and he said, "Dixie, I need you here." And my mother was very close to Gladys. One of the few people that Gladys really allowed into her circle of trust. Gladys was a very protective woman of her family. And so she and my mom were almost like mother and daughter. I know earlier you had the picture of Mom and Elvis at the prom. Gladys actually took my mother shopping for that prom dress. So Gladys and my mother came downtown here to a boutique that was called Three Sisters. Is that right? Yes. It was a boutique down here in downtown Memphis called Three Sisters. And so Gladys and my mother took the bus downtown Memphis and picked out that prom dress. So, I think that just is a perfect example to speak to the relationship that my mother and Gladys carried. So when Gladys passed in 1958, it was a very, very sad time for my mother, and she wanted to be there for Elvis. And so she did go to the funeral, and Elvis told her afterwards, he said, "Will you please come to Graceland?"
Wow.
So that we can talk some more. And so that was my mother's first visit to Graceland.
And when you think about it, because she knew Gladys and his dad, and also she was there for the very beginning of his career. And as everybody I've always read, he was really lost after Gladys passed.
Oh.
And so he was looking for as much familiarity as he could possibly find, and that was your mom.
It was.
Now, you said they had kind of gone their separate ways. How did that occur?
Yeah, that's a great question, Earle. And so, for those of you who saw the Elvis movie, there was a scene in the movie where Colonel Parker says that Elvis needs to be single, and they show the breakup scene of my mother and Elvis, and my mom's like, "That's not how that happened." And she said
Hollywood.
that yeah, Hollywood. But, Mom said there really never was a specific breakup conversation. It was just the realization of, wow, your life is going in such a big direction, and you have a gift that people are waiting for, and this is where you must go. But my mom, she had a different dream, and it was a very simple life. She said, "I wanted a man that went to work at 8 and came home at 5 and went to church on the weekends." And, the beauty of it was they both realized their dreams. They just didn't happen together.
Well, and I think you have outside influences too. It's like your side of the family sitting there going, "Well, he's Elvis Presley," and is this the best thing for our daughter? Mm-hmm. And Gladys, she doesn't know what's going to happen. And you got the Colonel saying he needs to be single so we can get as many fans as we want.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's really out of your hands, the couple's hands, and
sure.
It kind of takes on a life of its own. But you said did she meet who she ended up marrying before they broke up or after they broke up? How did that work?
Well, okay, that's a great story, too. My mom and my dad actually went to elementary school together. So my parents had known each other all their lives, and but never really were close friends. But later in their teenage years, their paths crossed again, and there is a really funny story. The year my mom graduated from high school, when she graduated from Southside High School, after the ceremony, she went out into the lobby, and she said as she was walking into the lobby that she could tell that the conversation, the noise was getting louder and louder, and she thought, what is all the commotion about out in the lobby? Well, when she got there, she saw that Elvis was standing there talking to my grandparents. And so by this point, people, knew who Elvis was, and that was causing all of the commotion. So my mom walks over to join Elvis and her parents. Well, also who comes walking in is my dad. And so my dad, if you've ever gotten a chance to meet him, he's about 5'8" and has a large personality for his size. And so he walks in and just sort of, abrupts the conversation between Elvis and my grandparents and my mother. So at some point, my dad says to my mother, "Look, are you going with me or are you going with Elvis?" And because Elvis was there to take my mother out for her graduation celebration, and my dad was there to take her out for her graduation celebration. And my mother said, looked at my dad, who they were just kids at the time. And my mother looks at my dad and she says, "I'm going with you." And so, we said it in the book, if you get a chance to read the book, it's like, at that point, Elvis had not left the building, my mother had. And so my mom did leave with my father and went out with him after graduation instead of Elvis.
The name of the book is Unlocked. Memories of Elvis's first girlfriend.
Yes.
That's your mom, Dixie. And down lower, there's a picture of your mom with Priscilla.
Yeah.
And then down at the very bottom, it's you and your mom together on, I guess, on the book tour after the book came out. You wrote the book together.
We did. I will tell you that this was my COVID blessing. I didn't ever realize that COVID could bring blessings, but it did. And during that time when the world basically shut down, my mom and my sister and I just used that time to come together and write my mother's memoirs, make sure that her stories were preserved in writing, because she always said everyone knew her story. And I said, no, Mom, not everyone does know it. And the truth is that if we don't get it in writing, there'll be a time when it can't be told.
Yeah.
So that was really the most important work that I would say of my career, was to be able to preserve those memories in writing with her.
So when did you first find out that your dad was not your mother's first boyfriend and that her first boyfriend was a pretty big deal?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's some really funny stories about that. So my dad is a retired firefighter for the city of Memphis. And if you've ever been around firemen or policemen, there is just a really tight brotherhood among them. And I love to hang out at the fire station with my dad. And I really would hear his co-workers kid him over the fact, they're like, no, wait a minute, Bobby. So Dixie dated Elvis, but she married you. And, and all 5'8" of my dad would just, bow up as tall as he could muster. And he's like, yeah, she knows who the real king is. And so, that was always, just my dad has always been a really great sport about the whole experience. So a lot of times I would hear his response to what other people would say. And then, Earle, the other piece of it was, darn, I hope your viewers don't do the math because they'll figure out my age. But in 1982, when Graceland opened for tours, I had just graduated high school. And we lived in Whitehaven, about 4 miles from Graceland. And so my cousin, who I was very close to, he said, hey, Kristi, I heard that Graceland is hiring for their, grand opening. You want to see if they'll give us a job? And we were out of high school. We were footloose and fancy free. So I said, sure, let's just go see. So we went down to Graceland, and they hired us on the spot. And
did they know who you were?
I told you I got the gift of gab.
Yeah.
So they hired me as a tour guide. Surprise. And
I got some Elvis stories.
Yeah. Well, but the funny thing is I didn't mention anything
Wow.
about who I was or who my mom was. And so started working at Graceland about 3 weeks into that. Before I got ready to leave work one day, I had a note, and it said, before you leave, please come to the office of Jack Soden, which for your viewers, Jack was and still is the CEO of Elvis Presley
the guy
Enterprises.
That saved Graceland.
Yes. So, it's kind of like, uh-oh, I'm being called to the principal's office. What did I do? So I get to Jack's office, and he makes small talk with me for a few minutes, and then he leans over his desk, and he gets this very serious demeanor about him, and he said, Kristi, why haven't you told us who your mother is? And I was thinking, how do I answer that question? What do I say? And I said, well, Jack, because I wanted you to hire me for me, and that you thought I was the right person for the position. And he said, well, now that's a very respectable answer, young lady. And I was like, oh, yay, I did good. And then he said, and then he dissed that situation. And he said, but how do I get in touch with your mother?
Yeah, that's the real question.
So anyway, he did invite my mom and dad up for a private tour of Graceland right after they had opened for tours. Jack has been just such a gentleman and such a kind person to our entire family for all of these years.
Did you ever meet Elvis?
I personally did not.
Isn't that amazing?
I wish more than you know that I could have. I did get to meet Vernon. And but you know, obviously Miss Gladys had passed away way before I was born. But I would have loved nothing more to meet Elvis.
Because I've covered him for almost 50 years. I
Yeah.
never met him, never saw him in concert, and it's like I've interviewed everybody that ever knew him.
Right.
And now you, but even you did not meet him,
No.
which is one of the things that makes all the things about Elvis very, very interesting, because there are people that have always been fans, never been to Memphis, never been to Graceland. There are people that live right here in Memphis that have never been to Graceland, which I'm amazed at.
Yes.
But the people that did know him, and to the person, there's not one person I've ever met that said they didn't think the world of Elvis, and he treated everybody as an individual and as a real person, including all his fans. That's why the guys at Super Cycle got him the trike bike, so he didn't have to keep his hand on the throttle. He'd just sit there and idle, and he could sign autographs, and he signed each one personally to the person and named them.
Right.
Who does that? And he did it all the time. You did get to know Priscilla.
Yes.
How did the Priscilla relationship develop between your mom and yourself?
Yes. A very sweet, special relationship forged between my mother and Priscilla. In 2002, at one of the Elvis anniversary concerts, it was actually being held at the Pyramid at that time here in Memphis. And so Jack Soden had told my mom, when the concert is over, we want you and your daughter to come to our after party. So Mom and I did go to the after party. Priscilla was there. Lisa Marie was there. This was during the time that Lisa was with Nicolas Cage. He was there. And the room was buzzing with people. And so Jack came over to my mom and he said, "Hey, Dixie, come with me. There's something I've been waiting to do for years." And so he grabs my mother by the hand, and my mother reaches back and grabs me with her other hand, and she's like, "Kristi, come with me." And so Jack starts weaving us through this crowd of people at the after party and walks my mom up to Priscilla. And Jack starts to say, "Priscilla, I want to introduce," and that's about as far as he got in his statement. And Priscilla just embraced my mom with the most beautiful, warm hug and said, "Dixie, I have waited for years to meet you, and I can't wait to tell you all the wonderful things Elvis said about you." And I have to tell you that to witness that immediate friendship between those two ladies was very special. And it did begin a wonderful friendship that lasted through the rest of my mom's life.
In fact, I'd heard that every time Priscilla came to Memphis after that she made it a point to go in to see her mom.
She did. They had tea or coffee here in the Peabody many times. When the guest house opened at Graceland, my mom met her in her suite, and Priscilla loved my dad too. Ironically enough, everybody seems to fall in love with my dad, and Priscilla's just been a very bright light to my family.
Well, she's a very nice person to everybody. I know that when they opened up the stables to the tour, this was several years ago. My son's a big horse person. He said, "Dad," it was the summertime, so he was out of school. He said, "Can I go with you? 'Cause Priscilla's going to be there, and we're going to dedicate the new stables." I said, "Sure." So he went with me. And after I interviewed her, I said, "Listen, JB's a big fan, and he's a horseman. Can he get his picture taken?" And she goes, "Sure." So I take their picture. JB has that picture in his barn where his horses are all now.
It.
And so everybody goes, "Is that Priscilla Presley?" He goes, "Yeah, we used to hang out." You know?
I love it.
Got a snapshot of her, and I didn't get one taken with her. I just felt like, that was something kind of that came along new in broadcasting, is cell phones. Because before that, you had to have a real camera.
Correct.
And I just didn't carry one around. You always felt kind of weird going, interview somebody, "Can I get my picture taken with you?" So
yeah.
I just never did. But I think it's a great thing now that people do that, and people can get their picture taken with everybody.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
It is. I'll tell you one quick thing, too, just another example of the friendship between my mother and Priscilla. When my mom turned 80 years old, we had a surprise birthday party for her in Germantown, Tennessee, a suburb here in Memphis. And I went out on a limb, and I know Priscilla stays extremely busy, but I reached out to her and told her that we were having a surprise party for my mom, and if there was any possibility she could be here. She was not scheduled to be in town, but she flew in from L.A., came to my mother's party. My sister and I didn't tell anyone because we were so afraid, how schedules can change, and we didn't want to tell people she was coming and then she couldn't come.
Yeah.
But she came, and to your point, Earle, she was so kind, gracious. Anyone who wanted a photo, she took a photo. Anyone who wanted an autograph, she gave an autograph. But she made it very clear that the person she was there for was my mom. And the two of them sat on a couch and giggled and exchanged gifts, and it was just precious.
And I think it's always great to hear a story like that, because there's so many people that other people are trying to get something from, either notoriety, invest in my business. Neither one of them had anything to gain by not being just kind to each other. And I think that was the bond that held them together. Neither one of them were looking for anything. They had already had the thing that brought them together, was Elvis, and that was going to go on for as long as they lived.
Yes.
And did.
Yeah.
When you wrote the book and went out on tour, how was your mom received when she would show up to sign books? How was that? She
was very well received. My mom had, we talk about the charisma and the magnetism that Elvis carried. My mom carried a level of that on her own. She was just the light in any room that she entered. She was very gracious. She was a profound woman of faith. And I think that was her goal, was to just shed a light to others and give them love, and she did that very well.
And you said that when Gladys passed away, that Elvis said he wanted to come over there. How did she take Elvis's passing?
How did she take Elvis's passing?
Yes.
Well, she was. It was hard on her. I'll give you a little backstory. In August of '77, when he passed, I remember personally being at home, and the ticker started flashing across the bottom of the screen that Elvis had passed. And not long after that, our phone rang at home, and I answered it, and this man asked to speak to my mother. And I said, well, she's not here right now. May I have her call you? And he said, yes, this is Vernon Presley. And, so I'm processing this in my head, because I'm reading, across the ticker, Elvis has been pronounced dead at Baptist Memorial, and I'm on the phone with Vernon Presley, and so I'm putting the dots together. So when my mom came in from work that day, she was very emotional. And so she did call and talk to Vernon. Vernon asked my mother to come to the funeral, and she said, I need to give that some thought. And Earle, she actually decided not to go to the funeral. And she said that, she wanted to remember Elvis with her memories and all the special things that she knew about him. And at that point, there had been a lot of, negative publicity about him, things that had gotten way over exaggerated that she didn't want to attach herself to. And so she chose not to go to the funeral.
Well, it probably wasn't a bad decision, because it was an absolute circus. I still remember the shot of, there must have been like 70 white limousines going back to the north on Elvis Presley Boulevard. The thousands and thousands of people that were there.
Right.
They tried to steal his casket, his body, which is how they got to bury it at Graceland, because they said, we got to be able to guard this thing 24 hours a day, the grave. But it was I feel the same way about a lot of funerals. I never go up and look at the casket or look inside the casket, because I do want to remember them the way I knew them.
Yes.
And so I think, and that held true with her. But when she went places, what were the kind of questions people asked your mother when she was signing the book? I mean, was there a general question that was always asked by the people?
Well, a lot of the females wanted to know if he was a good kisser.
See, I wouldn't have asked that question.
Yeah, and she said, well, of course he was. I think a lot of people were, including Priscilla, they were very interested in what my mom's memories and interactions were, not only with Elvis but with the family. Because by the time Priscilla met Elvis, Gladys had passed, and a lot of the grandparents had passed, and my mother had those relationships and had those memories. And so I think a lot of people were intrigued by that piece of history that she could share, from those early years.
We all still see Elvis Presley's movies.
Yes.
And even though they're very time dated, I love them because they're so simple.
Yeah.
And it was from that era. Did your mom get to see the movies? Did she like the movies that Elvis was in?
Oh, she did. I can remember us watching the Elvis movies at home growing up, and we were like you, and they were uplifting, heartwarming, positive, fun, happy. Which, who doesn't need more of that in their lives? And so, yeah, we always watched his movies.
Well, and I think there's so many young people you mentioned the recent movie, Elvis movie that came out that was a big revival. And
yes,
we had Lisa Dean on here from Graceland a week or so ago, and she was talking about how many young kids are now coming to Graceland that are fans.
Right.
Because of that movie, not the old movies and
Correct.
everything else, because of the story and everything that goes along with it. And there are kids now coming there that even their parents might not have been fans, but now they are. Then what's this, Elo and Stitch? What's the name? Lilo and Stitch. Hey. Something else I missed. But evidently it's another big contributor to the Elvis popularity. And then we had some people from France here just a minute ago, and we were talking about, they're over here. This is the second time for one of them. And he said, we're going to Graceland tomorrow. And I said, do you think it'll ever end? He goes, no, it will never end.
Never end.
And I don't think it will. I think it is such a Horatio Alger story, rags to riches,
For sure.
Incredible performer. But also, and he had his problems, but he was always a true person and a good person.
No doubt. A great humanitarian.
Yeah. And loved to make people happy.
Yes.
I think that was why he gave so much away to people. I read that the thing he loved most was the reaction on their face when he gave them something they thought they would never have.
Right.
Like a new Cadillac. And he said that's what brought him more joy than getting any of those things for himself.
Right.
Which is a sign of a really true giving person.
It is. Yeah, he had a very generous heart.
Are you amazed at how Graceland has continued to grow? You mentioned the guest house and across the street. When I first started covering Graceland, it was just a shopping center there. They had a vacuum cleaner store. They had a laundry. They had a few other things. And Marlowe's down the street where you go get ribs.
Yes.
But it was just a regular neighborhood store. Now it's they call it the campus.
Yeah. I've heard them say more than once that Graceland is the second most visited home in the United States, second to the White House.
Yes, that's true.
And, I know you mentioned earlier that a lot of us Memphians have never been to Graceland. And for those of you listening, I would encourage you wholeheartedly to take a field trip and go experience it, because it's something that we as a community should be extremely proud of in our city.
Absolutely. Your book, Unlocked, you can get at Graceland.
Yes.
You can also, how else can they get your book?
Yeah, we're super proud. Graceland has been one of our biggest supporters of the book. Priscilla actually wrote the foreword of the book. Jack Soden wrote a review on the book as well. So we're super proud that Graceland has been one of our largest carriers and vendors of the book. So you can buy it there. You can also buy it at the Tupelo birthplace in Tupelo, Mississippi. And that's an amazing venue if anyone has not been there yet. And then you can also buy it through our website, which is dixielocke.bigcartel.com.
And I'll be selling them out of the trunk of my car. right outside the Peabody Hotel later today. So, Kristi, thank you so much for coming in. I enjoyed our discussion, and I think everybody else did too. It's a great story, and I wish I had met Dixie.
I wish you could have. You would have loved her like we all did.
I'm sure I would have, along with Elvis.
Thank
Thank you very much. That is our show for today. Thank you for watching. You can also see it on Spotify and YouTube. We'll see you next time.